In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to seal up and hide the thread and knot after you have completed stuffing your monster, well, in this case, a teddy bear, stuffing your monster and stitching him all the way up. So as usual, you've got this, or you're going to start the same way. You're absolutely going to come in from the front layer right next to the last stitch. So we're going to come up through the front layer. We're going to try really hard to keep our stitches the same length and the same width. We're going to tuck that thread inside there, and then I'm simply going to kind of pull and pinch my sides together. Okay, so let's see if we can get this done. It is a little more awkward to finish this particular step because you're dealing now no longer with a flat surface, sorry. And you want to make sure that you have no tangles, etc. And now you have something bumpy and fat to grab your thread loops. And again, before each stitch, I want to double check to make sure that I have it measured correctly. It's not too big, it's not too long. I don't want my stitch width between stitches to be too long. If we start getting a little bit lazy with our stitches and think it won't matter to have them so wide, it will matter because your fabric, once it has stuffing in it, will gape. See how that sort of gapes like that? Gapes open. That happens when we don't stitch properly. So we have to make sure that we've got it even and that we are stitching it the same width and length. Now you might have a little pattern that you're doing from an applique, an embellishment. That's different. Okay, and I'm gonna, if you notice, I sort of pulled it over because it was sort of kind of getting close together. Again, you can pin this if you want it. I don't think it's going to necessarily work as well as you think it might, just because it's felt, and felt is very slippery. So I'm going to try to get this in here. And I pull it sort of away from me, give it a little tug-see, and then I'm going to keep going. We're not very far from the end, but I can't hold my hand around it like I was doing it earlier when we were stitching. Just got to kind of keep plugging along. Whoops, closed it up before I got my understitch in there. Again, sort of pull it that direction. So we want that nice little railroad looking stitch as we go along. So, and sometimes you might just want to push the stuffing, down a little bit. You can certainly do that if it's in your way. You want to make sure that when you have stuffed this, that you've maybe used your finger or the end of a pencil to really get it up inside of those ears. Sometimes it likes to slide back down, and it does that. It's just part of doing something from hand, a hand sewing piece. Let's see here. We are so close to being done, and we're gonna stitch this up, and now you'll know exactly how to do this, and you can create all your own little felt monsters or toys. Just always remember that when you put a button on something, not to give it to a child under the age of 3. It is a choking hazard. We are very close to the end, so I'm able to kind of get my hands around my monster, his body a little bit, so that I can do this a little more efficiently. Here we go. Very slowly, because I do not want my thread to tangle. Now, we've been talking about coming in and tying off under the last stitch sewn. Now look right here. I've got this space right here between this stitch and this is the first stitch. I'm going to go ahead and do one more here. Embroidery thread is so thick, so twisty, but it looks so nice. Now, here's the first stitch that we stitched, and I'm going to come up underneath it. That's where I'm going to tie it off at. And I'm only going to do it once. Make sure that's nice and tight, very carefully. Now here's the tricky part that I want to show you. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go right here in between. You can barely see it. It's just right in between the top and the bottom layer. And you can see right there, I'm pulling my needle up and I'm going to push my needle through the front of my little bear here. Okay, and I want you to see the edge. Do you see a knot? There's no knots right there. Look right here. There's no knots. There's no end. So I've come up here through the side, and now I am going to cut it real close to the monster's body. And then I'm going to take the felt. I want you to see this. I'm going to take the felt and just sort of pull it that way and this way. Just sort of mess with it a little bit. There we go. Lift it up very carefully. I don't want to puncture his body there either. And look at that. He's all finished. So when you take a picture to turn this in, you'll take a picture with it like this, and then you can hold it so I can see the top, hold it so I can see the sides, hold it so I can see the bottom and the side. Straighten those seams out, and you're all done. Aren't they the cutest little things? Here's one, here's two, and they're buddies. Good job, guys.